Uh, yeah, sir. Like, where did you get this link? Is it on the meeting minutes? Okay, I think let me fix it. Okay. I have fixed the meeting link issue.
Hello. Hello, hello. Do you know, is Rude Rocks gonna come? I
Yeah.
wonder.
Let me ping him. The link in the calendar was actually broken, I think.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Yeah,
Well,
I
and
fixed it.
okay, in the reminder in Slack as well. We didn't really, I know we didn't necessarily need to really to change that, but I guess since you already have, like, there's no, we may as well go forward. But cool. And so while we prep to talk about the V060 release, it'll be nice to welcome Yasser.
Thanks, Lee. I'm very pleased to be with you today.
Yeah, nice to, yeah, Yasser, nice to meet you. Good to yeah, you're I recognize the profile photo from yeah. Actually, Yasser, it's a well, it's a community tradition to force newcomers to awkwardly introduce themselves and just say a few words, sort of, you know, where are you dialing in from? What's your current focus? You know, what brings you to the community? You know, it's kind of an icebreaker.
Well, to give you a brief, I'm a DevOps architect. I've been in the DevOps arena for quite a while. And generally, my main focus now is Go language. And I've been in the mesh industry for, I think, quite a few months back. I have used Istio, I have used also console, I have used traffic and several other mesh solutions. And I'm very pleased to be within this community, tackling the most important issues in the mesh industry. Yeah.
Nice. Oh, that's perfect. Yeah, that's great. Yeah. Gosh, what to say there? Boy, you know, Yasser, actually, there's a lower number of people attending this call than usual. I mean, in part because we just, or this particular call anyway, because we just got done switching this call from like a continuous integration focus to a broader sort of build and release focus.
Excellent.
And so, but there's a lot of, well, speaking of those important initiatives within the service mesh landscape, I was just chatting with a couple of other maintainers on service mesh interface, and they are using, or we are creating an SMI controller SDK so that it'll make it a bit easier for different service meshes that are implementing SMI to have a development kit to create SMI compatible controllers. Part of that kit, there's a relationship to what we're talking about here. Like part of that kit will include a GitHub action for SMI conformance. That's one of the things that Meshery does is, provisions in any of those service meshes, provisions workloads on them, and will run conformance tests and then collect the results and transmit the results back to meshery.io/conformance. And so anyway, point is, I think CI is continuous integration is still definitely in scope of this meeting, but we also recognize that as Meshery is about to release its .6 release, we're getting closer and closer to a 1.0, and we want to give, build up the practices around test strategies, specific test plans, and build a muscle and kind of routine around release, hardened releases. So, yeah.
Yes,
Yeah. Nice. Navindu, a few others have joined. That's nice. Some familiar faces.
All right. Welcome, guys, to the Meshery build and release meeting. So the main topic for today is definitely the V0.6 release. I think we are ready to go ahead with release, but as mentioned in the meeting minutes, there are a couple of pending issues which were supposed to be part of this V0.6 release, one of which is migrating Meshery CTL to use Helm charts instead of the Kubernetes manifest file. And another area that we might need to look into is the seed content for Meshery Cloud. As far as I think, the Helm chart issue is not that big of an issue, because we still users can still deploy to Kubernetes directly with the current implementation, but the seed content for Meshery Cloud might be an issue that we need to address before we release or make the release more public and maybe attract more users. So those are some concerns that we need to discuss today and decide how we need to proceed. And another thing that we need to get ready is the release blog or the release blogs. So the the official release blog is almost ready. Like from my part, like I will make a PR, right? Like after this a meeting to add that blog, and some of the other one-off blogs are still pending, but that can happen like even after the release. Like we can keep pushing those blogs out after we make a release as well. So yeah, with that context, let's discuss about these two items in particular first. Then, like, let's see if we can in fact make a release today itself. So yeah, so for the reason I mentioned seed content for Meshery Cloud is the priorities is in fact because most users are likely to choose the Meshery provider uh, when they start up, and without having any content in any sample applications, any sample filters, or any sample service mesh patterns, users would not be able to really use those beta features. Uh, so yeah, uh, I think like with that, like we can open the floor to discussion. Lee, like, would you like to share your thoughts on this?
Yeah, or we didn't necessarily have to go out of order, but I mean, I would propose that well, one that this week is a good week for announcements. You know, we made two big ones already, and that I think in general, we'll collectively, I know that there's a bunch of people signed up to write blog posts on forthcoming features, but I think we'll probably struggle a little bit to get all of that written up. It's not about the writing as much as, I guess what I mean to say is we'll struggle a little bit to get the .6 release out. And adding and like I don't, and like something that can be addressed through writing. I don't know that should hold up the release. Like that design will take a little while to do and then to get right. We'll end up pushing the .6 release back and further back and further back. These are beta areas. Yeah, I don't know. I mean, I'm just kind of thinking aloud. Like one thing to do is in the UI itself is to have a link to a guide that says, here's some sample content, go find it. And that way people, when they go to a blank page, it's like, oh, okay, like, great. Yeah. I don't know. But the thing that is for certain kind of critical and we know affects the way that people deploy Meshery into Kubernetes is the pervasive switch to using Helm charts and trying to make it there. Maybe yeah, if we refocus there, like under the assumption that we could write a blog post or a doc in Meshery docs that then links people to how to load up sample content, assuming that we could achieve that if we talk more about the Meshery operator deployments in the server. Rudraksh, is that something that you're focused on, or is that something that Darren is focused on?
So Meshery server deploying Meshery operator using Helm. Actually, I'm taking a look at that, and Darren is looking more into how to do it using Meshery CTL. So the thing is that when you do it using Meshery CTL, it installs the entire thing. And with Meshery server, we only want to install some components. So that's what I'm looking into right now. And I'll probably put a PR in an hour or so.
Nice. Okay. Do you know, will that be a subchart or will that be its own separate chart?
Yeah, if we introduce another chart for that, we'll have some new concerns about versioning and doing stuff related to that, and that might come up with its own caveats. So I guess we can keep it the way it is right now. So it's like we don't need to publish a new chart for Meshery operator, and it can stay the way it is. Meshery server would have some things so that it will only install the operator and the other resources.
That's fantastic. That's awesome. That's great. Hey, briefly, just as we're, by the way, as it's a small meeting today, so nice to warmly embrace Yasser. Yasser, quick question. So just in getting to know you more. So you have some familiarity and comfort with Golang, and then I guess clearly through having deployed the other meshes that you talked about. How much time have you hung around Helm? Like it's been a little bit of a challenge for us recently. We're finding that even the V2 of Helm is still doesn't handle a few concerns. And I figured I'd ask if you've gotten how much time you've been spent with Helm in the past.
Well, I can be with you for quite a bit of time. I can spare some hours, but in fact, I'm just getting acquainted with the repository. I'm just being familiar with the code, with the repository, the charts available, and having got a chance to build a quite preferable release in a while. So I think I need some links, some ready links from where to start with.
It makes perfect sense. Yeah, totally. And I'll for my part, I'll send you at least maybe just one. I was going to say a couple, but maybe just one, just because so that you're able to give this upcoming Meshery release a healthy poke.
Yeah,
because there's some rough edges in there still, and I think we've been looking at those edges so long. I don't know that I think we've started to ignore some of them. So, yeah. Okay, cool, good.
So that's
Rudraksh.
Yeah. The build strategy is, I think you have written some kind of a document for a build strategy for GitHub for code repositories. Yeah, I think I guess it's on the interview on the newcomer document that you are showing how you are going to PRs, how to initialize these PRs and from where. Yeah, some branching also.
Oh, nice. Oh, okay. Yeah. If you have that doc, then you'll get as many links as you need. Or
Excellent.
Yeah.
Excellent.
There is. Yasser brings up a good point. Actually, is that on Meshery docs, there is a section that's just dedicated to the build and release topic. So it's like and this is fairly, it's fairly accurate. There's one thing in here though that's changed kind of recently, or I don't know that this talks about our Helm charts, and so Rudraksh, guess what? It's potentially something to mention to Darren as well, or to Asuko. Asuko is, he just scored a 46 out of 50 on his English exam. So he's, so actually asking him to write a little bit of doc on Helm charts, which is his forte, is probably a good exercise for him. So I'll go do that. Actually, I'll include you guys, but I think it would be good for him. It would be good for us to have some docs about how the project is building and where it's publishing the Helm charts. I think Navendu, if you go to the very top, there's an artifacts table. I think we list that the charts. Oh no. Okay. Yeah, they're. Oh no. Okay. Boy. Yeah, we got a few things to document about Helm charts. So artifact hub and. Okay. I'm just taking some notes here, but Navendu, please feel free to
Yep.
continue.
And like, I think we have actually postponed some PRs of to V07, like just so that this looks clean. Like we changed priorities, or we just decided that some of these need not necessarily be in this release. So that is one thing. And we have a couple of open issues for with the milestone, some of which are documentation, and it would help us, like if we go through this and ensure that like we don't miss anything. As far as I know, like we didn't miss anything, but like if anything like went through the cracks, please let me know as well. And
So yeah, on that, Navendu, would it be helpful to look at outstanding PRs? So outstanding issues, yeah, that makes a lot of sense. But just kind of currently outstanding PRs for the .6 release.
yep, sure.
Okay. All right. So we have this. Okay. So,
So
we have
yeah, so looking through this PRs, most of this stuff could go into subsequent releases. So V6.1, it shouldn't be much of an issue. So yeah.
yeah, except for the Meshery CTL perf and the persisting of those results, like that's pretty fundamental functionality. Like,
Is Piyush on the call? Okay, so I think like we discussed most of this stuff. I think like Piyush is ready to finish this off. So we have the proper functionality with the performance configuration file, as well as we have some user experience improvements across the perf commands as well. So I don't have an ETA from Piyush, but like he has been working on that this week. So I guess this is fundamental to the V0.6 release, right?
well, yeah, well, or I guess the question is, if this is an enhancement to the user experience, then we're okay. But if
Yeah, this is still an issue. Yeah.
okay,
The persisting results is an issue. So should we get that ready like by as soon as possible and then make a release?
yeah, I think the only other thing is just the subchart for Meshery operator, or switching out that Meshery server code to do Helm, not manifest, and then at least of the PR, I don't know if anyone else saw any other PRs that couldn't wait for .7. It looked like it was only the persisting. So we have some documentation ones. That very last one looks a little old. And I guess I just wonder if we're even like what we're thinking of doing with this.
It comes down to a user experience issue. Like I think some things might have changed in Meshery CTL.
Oh, okay. Oh, okay. Yeah. If given the severity of the issue, like it's actually what's interesting is given the severity of the issue, it can probably wait. Actually, Aditya, I think he just took on the issue a little bit ago. And then I think and then he has an open, did he open a PR on that? I think there's an open PR right now. Or, oh, okay. Nope, I'm confusing it. It might be the system check. No, I don't know. Okay, good. Yeah, if it's just a UX, then we should, that's fine. Nice. So assuming those are the only two items left, the release blogs. Is Zane on the call? Yes, he is.
So this is going to be the complete block, and we will have other individual blocks for particular set of features. I have to, I will make a PR on this soon, and like this document misses the images and screenshots, but I will make a PR adding those as well, and we can go for another round of reviews as well. Regarding the individual blocks, people have signed up to take some of this, but I don't think much have been written. The blocks for the GitHub Actions is an open PR. Is already an open PR, but I'm not sure about the other ones. Maybe saying like, is there any blocks here that have been written that needs review or need our attention?
We actually need our attention in filters. Person who has been assigned has not been responding, so I think we'll have to reassign this to someone else. Or
Okay. And any other blocks up for
I was
review?
just wondering.
Which one?
Not as of yet. Yeah, I was just wondering if I can take the contents of filters, and can any of you give me an opinion? Like, would I be able to do that given the consent?
Yep.
For filters itself,
I
the
think
one which
so. We have a lot of documentation on filters here, and since filters is in beta, like there isn't much functionality around it right now. So like, I'm not sure like what should be on the blog. So yep.
Yeah. Oh wait. Blog post about specifically about the filters or about
the filters. Yeah.
Yeah. Well. So. Yep. There's a little bit of a mixed. So Meshery does deploy. Does let you load up your filters. Does let you configure your filters. Does let you actually deploy one filter specifically from the UI. And that's the image hub filter, because that's a kind of a baked in consideration as part of that sample app. And you can deploy the sample app and then you can deploy the filter. And so, but that's just for one. As we make this a generic capability to manage any WebAssembly filter. So the ability for Meshery to do that from the server is present, and it's in the new service mesh patterns method and under that methodology, which is a lot more flexible. And that raw capability is present in Meshery server. The UI, though, for deploying them and applying them, yeah, we might have to, I have to go refresh. Like there, does anyone recall, like there is the button to deploy. I just don't know that it really gives you, it makes a lot of assumptions about where you would want to deploy it. It assumes that you'd use your current context and like, like it's under form. That's why it's in beta. But I guess the question here, is it still in alpha or has it made it to beta? And if you can, so Rude Rocks, I don't know if you're an individual that's closer to this. But the question is like, if you select a filter from the table, can you deploy? Even though you can't necessarily select all, well, I guess like actually through the pattern, you can select where you'd like for it to go, what workload you'd like for it to be applied to. So, oh boy, this is a really timely question.
I don't think we can deploy a filter right now.
Okay, let me grab Utkarsh and see if he's more familiar. But in the meantime, it's probably speculate. I mean, Navendu, if you were to take, yeah, you know what, it's probably speculation. Even if you took that filter and tried to deploy it right now.
Yeah, like I think like it will work like a pattern. So basically the pattern defined here should get deployed, I guess.
Yeah, I think that is true, and that's basically what I was saying about Meshery server being able to do it. I guess the question just more or less becomes, it doesn't have all the flexibility. Well, it does. Like, and actually, if you give it the right YAML, it has all the flexibility that you want.
Yeah, like you can technically deploy filters, provided that they are stored somewhere, and you use this pattern file as a configuration.
Okay.
So yeah, so basically there is a filter file that is stored somewhere here, wasm binary. So basically this is a filter, I guess.
I love it when you answer your own questions. It's good. Good. Yeah, right. I mean, like this sample one that you just did, like, yeah, it probably doesn't deploy because it's not, it looks real, but if you don't have all that infrastructure either, if you weren't ready to deploy, like I'm sure that you don't have Image Hub actually deployed. So when it tries to deploy, it can't find, but. So, okay, that's good. We should, do a double check with Utkarsh on this, but.
Yeah, the only functionality missing here is Meshery actually taking care of the binary as well as the filter, as well as the configuration. So yeah.
Right. Okay, good. Although if you go back to the example that you were just on, like internal to the pattern or internal to this YAML, did it have configuration for the filter?
Yep.
Okay. So the user experience is not what is ultimately, like that's it right there, right? The right there, yeah, the value. That's the configuration. So the UX is not quite what we're hoping for, but that's what a beta is. So Abhi Kumar was just poking me. And so he's someone that can help get the right UX going.
I think like there someone was working on the UX. I guess like it might have gotten stale. I guess.
Is that Megana? Or was that using?
I'm not sure. Like we used to discuss it on the Wasm filters call. So yeah, to answer
Actually,
Said's question, I guess like we can document this and mention that this is a beta feature and maybe we have a couple of pattern files describing Wasm filters, so we can also maybe talk about that in the blog post as well.
Nice.
okay.
Good.
Lee, like, do you have an update on this blog post which is assigned to you?
Oh yeah, I wrote that. Like that's done. Like that. No, no, I'm no kidding. So in this case, all right, the thing that we're looking to achieve with dynamic management UIs, well, we kind of have. I haven't written this, so to answer your question up front, but it's not. But what we have right now, it's. And by the way, just like for Yasser in particular, I know I keep on picking on Yasser because I'm excited that he's here. But like this, I'm glad that we're talking about docs or blogs because, well, it's one of those things we don't have enough of. And so just as you familiarize with the project, like don't hesitate to do the same. Yep. So of the dynamic UIs that we have, the most prominent one is the patterns UI, where there's a configurator for building out your pattern. It too is not ultimately what is desired, but it's closer, but it's a new. Yeah, it is closer to what we would have in terms of a dynamic management UI. For Istio in specific, the fact that we support so many versions makes this really painful to look at. And it's also not obvious. Like this is supporting all of the Istio versions of the various auth policies. Shoot, this particular feature, like I don't know that you could say it was ready for beta. It's just not something that people would understand what's going on. Did Abhi Kumar join? Or I guess Megan is here. So we've got this challenge. Utkarsh, Abhi Kumar, he's working conceptually. He's working on collapsing these into versions, categorizing all of these resources by version. And then, okay, good. And then once that's there, that'll be a lot. That actually might be the last thing to be done. Is that just needs that will make it navigable. The other part of the challenge, and so like Rodolfo, this is a good thing for you and for others to reflect on. Like for my part, I know I've been staring at this challenge too long and am not bringing good suggestions. But let me describe what we're trying to do here so that you guys can reflect on what you think would be a good user experience. So that's more or less that. So right now, the interface that we're in is that someone's taking a look at a service mesh pattern. Patterns are captured in YAML. Part of your question right now might be, well, what exactly is a pattern? It's like, well, they're fairly related to Kubernetes manifests. As a matter of fact, we just gave a talk on this at Service Mesh Con this week. I'm trying to make it not take 30 minutes to explain. And that's just to say that patterns are templates for service mesh configurations that people might want to use. There's a bunch of ways to configure your mesh. And so how do you know if you're doing it right, or if others are doing it in a similar fashion? Well, go grab a pattern, like how many retries should you configure in your environment? What should be the rate limit? How sensitive should your circuit breaker be? Blah, 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 you know, like all these things. Well, good. Well, Meshery, part of the value that it will provide to users is a curated set of patterns to like either take and use directly, or based on your environment, maybe you want to tweak those. Like maybe best practice is to use 2 retries per service, just sort of universally, like it's the magic number. Maybe I'm making it up, but like that wouldn't necessarily be far off. Okay, so that pattern can be expressed in YAML. Someone may say, great, I see the best practice retries pattern in the list, although, you know, it's not going to do it for me. Like I want to tweak it a little bit. So they click to edit it. And so right now they're in edit mode. And the UI that they're seeing, well, it's one, what's happening is that Meshery supports all of the, so this is an, okay, so it supports all the construct. In this case, we're using Istio as the example, but it supports like all of the custom resources that Istio has. So authorization policy, a destination rule, a virtual service, the peer authenticate, like are all these custom resources. And not only does Meshery do that for the latest release of Istio, but also the last release, the one before, like 50 of them back. So the UI needs to be enhanced here, such that it's not showing you all 50 versions of the author of that custom resource authorization policy, and then all 50 of the destination rule and all 50 of the, we need to fix that user experience. But assuming that, and this is kind of what I'm asking for you guys to reflect on, is if someone wants to go modify a pattern, they can look at the raw YAML. Okay, good, helpful, not always necessarily desirable. Sometimes it's not. If Navendu, if you do me a favor, if you scroll down a bit, and I'm going to shut up here in a minute and let Rodolfo think out loud, but if you go to gateway, sure. Just like this, there's Istio gateways, an ingress gateway, an egress gateway, things that people can configure. Gateways help, ingress gateway helps redirect traffic once it reaches your service mesh and directs it to various services with various workloads on your mesh. So, you need to configure your gateway with ports and protocols and redirect, different rules and things. And actually it goes on for a long time. Like there's a lot that you could potentially configure. And this user interface is attempting to expose all of that configuration. So having described the problem, I'm going to step back and kind of ask, if you put your user hat on, is there a different style interface that you imagine might be more?
Sorry, maybe we can manage tabs in vertical instead of rows in horizontal, because if we put all these things in horizontal, there are a lot of rows, and the column to edit is too narrow between these settings and the YAML. So if we change from horizontal to vertical, maybe instead of rows, manage tabs, I think we can increase the space of the YAML edition in order to cover all the screen. And if we need to change one authorization policy, instead of displaying in the left side, maybe we can put a bar at the top in order to manage tabs. It could be an option.
I don't want to don't want to lead the question. That's good. Before I try to expound on that, does anyone else have ideas about the UX here? Oh, I'm having an allergic reaction in my eye. Anybody else allergic to cats and have a wife who likes to have cats but doesn't care if you're allergic or not? Okay, oh, it's painful. Okay. Yeah, to Rodolfo's, like, gosh, there's a lot, it's so compact, right? Or it's so dense rather. So to Rodolfo's point, like, yeah, it's unnavigable, innavigable, whatever the word is for, like, I can't, as a user, I can't comprehend what the heck is going on. I'm not confident in configuring, like if you expand one of these accordions again, like I get lost kind of quick in what's going on. And that's okay, because there hasn't been a lot of effort given to really refine and provide the right information architecture in this accordion. To Rodolfo's point, like, if you know how you're ever editing a Word doc or something like that, like a lot of, you'll, as if not everyone doesn't do that every day. Like everybody every day is in Google Docs or MS Word or whatever you're using, but you get a toolbar. Toolbar has got left align, right align, justify, blah, 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 all the, I don't know if all of these things can be represented as icons or readily represented as icons, but that vertical, well, it's not vertical as much as like that. I guess it's like a horizontal toolbar that has these different components, service mesh components that you might want to configure. I'll abuse the word component and call like authorization policy a component. Maybe you click on the authorization policy button. Here in this UI, it might make sense that what you want, if you're going to focus on authorization policy, and if it's fairly dense, like maybe that should take up your whole screen, like, give you the space that you need to really understand what all these inputs, these fields are about, and then let people configure that policy, close it, save it. Maybe that's a modal, or maybe just the fact that there's a perpetually open YAML, maybe that just needs to be collapsed until someone says, I'd like to see what that looks like. I don't know. Maybe not. Maybe it's like really reassuring to the user that as they're going through and they're entering an input and they're saying, I want my authorization policy to be like this, that they're at the same time, real time, seeing the YAML basically get written out as they go. Maybe that's really, educational, confidence inspiring. They get that immediate feedback. This is what the system is going to look like. So, Rodolfo, did I butcher your suggestion?
Yeah, that is exactly a good point. Have a toolbar in order to focus the thing that you are editing, and if you are finished with that thing, you pick on save and close or something like that, and you can explore other options. I think it's a good idea that you explained.
Actually, since Rodolfo, since you brought this up, like that actually breaks through my own wall around around what Abi, who's just joined, his current challenge in terms of the UX here has been to group all of these components by service mesh, by service mesh, and then by service mesh version. And actually, if there's a toolbar and there's kind of an overarching, like the fact that you're trying to apply. Yeah, you do. Utkarsh, this is one of the challenges. Like right now, when people are modifying a pattern, when they're modifying, they would be doing it in context of a specific type of service mesh. Not ultimately what we desire, because we ultimately desire, like a retry pattern that's service mesh agnostic. But anyway, for the time being, they would be doing this configuration in context of a service mesh type, secondarily in context of a service mesh version, which then means we don't have to show them all the components for all the versions. Rather, if they have those first two settings, which kind of become filters, if they have those configured, if they're saying, well, I'm working with Istio and I'm working with this version, then whenever they click on an icon on that toolbar or whatever that ends up being, that well, it's predetermined, like those other things are already answered. So we don't have to show all the versions, and we don't have to show all the service meshes. We don't have to show all the versions of that service mesh. It's just, these are the 15 custom resources for Istio specifically, or the 25 or whatever. And that reduces, what needs to be shown to the user. Is Abhi still on? Or maybe Meghana? Does that make sense what's being described?
Yeah. Yes, Lee. I'm just thinking like what else we can do. Like the collapsible YAML part, collapsing it is one way that can obviously help. And yeah, and minimizing. What is the last thing that you were mentioning? Was it minimizing the number of Istio versions that we'll be handling, like from 50 or so to 15 or 25-ish? Is that what you mentioned? Okay.
Yeah.
That.
Imagine for a moment, if you will, that like a horizontal toolbar, kind of like the edit pattern toolbar that's there right now. I mean, that's not a toolbar, that's a cookie crumb. That if that were a horizontal toolbar, that the first two selections on that toolbar would be service mesh type. The second one would be version number of that service mesh.
Yes.
And that the very leftmost selection, what type of service mesh, updates the values that are available for the version field. And then that updates the icons that are available on the toolbar. Then when someone were to click a particular icon, like which is a custom resource like authorization policy, what they would get is, well, maybe just this, like it wouldn't necessarily need to be in an accordion, because they would just get, on the left-hand side, they would get the full content of that accordion. So Navendu, if you don't mind, if you scroll down to the contents of that accordion, like they would get this, but we need to style it a little bit different so that it's not hideous.
Yes, I get that. Yes, Leah, that sounds good actually. A toolbar that has lets you select the version and the service mesh, and then according to those configurations, you'll be getting all the things that you can edit. So that sounds good actually.
And for that reason that we have all these like large number of same policies, because that is coming from different versions, right? The same page.
Okay. Say that again, like that multiple people might be configuring different policies. Is that what you're saying?
No. I'm saying like since we have for the Istio especially, we have different versions that is like available, right? So that is so that's why we have like more than 5, 10, 15 same type like authorization policy dot Istio that corresponds to just is it correspond to like the certain version number, like all the fields here? Wait, okay, sounds good. Okay, I will be doing that thing. Okay, no problem. I was just a bit confused. I just don't get full time to research on it. So probably I will be doing my next videos.
Yeah, I mean, if it wasn't for Rodolfo, we wouldn't have figured this thing out actually. So,
I just draw something. Sorry.
Oh yeah.
I just draw something that I would like to share, but I think it's already explained. That is something that Lee explained, that if you select one service mesh type, you will see service number or other thing that is related to the service mesh type selected, and then you will see some versions related to that, to the previous options. And then after selecting all these three filters or option, you will see in a whole screen the YAML edition and the options configuration.
That looks awesome. Yeah, thanks, Rodolfo. It clears a lot.
All right. So yep. Thanks, Rodolfo. Uh, I think Abhi will go ahead and work on it. Uh, since we are almost at time, let me quickly refresh on the things that we need to get get done before we make a release. So, uh, related to seed content for Meshery Cloud, since it might take some design effort on our part to actually implement this quickly, what we discussed and derived at was create sample content. I mean, uh, provide documentation to the user on where they can get their sample content, and maybe add it in Meshery docs and in the UI itself, since these features are in beta. So even if a user uses the Meshery provider, they can load in their own sample applications or sample filters from the URL we provide. And another missing item is persisting performance test results from Meshery CTL. It is being actively worked on, so I guess we can uh, wait for it to be completed and then make a release. Uh, is there anything else I missed that we need to do right away?
Just a little confusion on persisting performance results. There are two issues regarding this. One was around the SMP profile and results not getting persisted due to that. And the other one was when you create a performance test using Meshery CTL, it gets, I mean, once you create it, to run a test, you need to specify flags every time, and you can't just reference a profile that you created earlier. Let me just quickly find the issue and link it.
Uh, is Piyush working on both these issues? One was persisting the results. I guess he is also looking into the other one.
Yeah, guess we, I guess he was assigned, but not sure.
Okay, could you share the issue when you find it in Slack or
Sure.
uh, and also link it here? Maybe you can tag Piyush and check if he's already working on it.
Okay.
All right. Anything else we missed or any outstanding PRs, outstanding tasks that we need to complete for the V06 release? And regarding the Helm charts, what we ca- what we came to conclusion was we can probably make this part of a subsequent release. So the users won't uh, feel any user experience changes. So yeah, that is that. All right, everybody. That's we are out of time today. I guess we made some progress on what needs to be done for the next release. So if no one else has anything to add right now, let's okay. Okay, Rudraksh, like I will look into this and I will hit up Piyush as well. So, all right, everyone, thanks for joining. We'll see you probably tomorrow on the community meeting. We'll see you in 2 weeks. Bye.
Thanks, Namidu. Bye.
Bye, Rodolfo. Bye.
Bye.
Bye. Well.
Bye.
Bye.